Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, August 12th, 2025. So we start off with Leo and Javi. They're there with baby Tesaro. And Leo again is whining and complaining about how he should be the reporter on the Johnny DeMera case and how he doesn't like being a juror. And they're talking about, it being a potential movie one day and, somebody playing his role and all of that. So anyways, they do talk more about, I guess, the letter from Tesaro's burnt mom, and they read it, and it's saying how she is making a huge sacrifice and it's the hardest decision she ever made, and that she did it out of love and all of that, yada yada yada. So anyways, they empathize with that, but they also say, she will be relieved that he's with people that really love him and care for him, until an actual permanent foster family come into play. They are killing their role as they're talking amongst themselves, and Leo goes off for jury duty, and I guess Rafe is gonna watch the child. And at some point they talk about a date night, and that was really it. So Kristen and Brady are at the pub, and they're waiting to go to the trial because it's Rachel's day to testify. And Kristen is nervous because she really doesn't want her child to go through this. And Brady's just saying that we have to be calm and confident because she shouldn't see us acting like a nervous wreck when she has to be the one to testify. So anyways, Rachel was around the back of the pub with Roman, and she comes off and she notices that her mom is there. So she said, are we on our way to the courthouse? So they said, Brady said, yeah, shortly. So she is kind of nervous because she doesn't want to send Johnny to jail based on her testimony, right? So Brady's saying that, look, at the end of the day, just be honest. It is what it is. There's going to be other people that are going to testify, and the jury is going to decide, based on whose testimony or what testimony, is going to determine if Johnny is guilty or innocent. At the end of the day, you should not really care that much about it or concern yourself about it. Just do what you have to do and be honest. So she asked about her mom because her mom is also testifying. So she said, were you the one that actually did the shooting? So she said, remember, I went to the police station and I was cleared of all charges. It wasn't me, I promise you. So they wait a little bit more until they have to go to the courthouse. So at some point, Brady's gonna be sitting in to support Rachel because Kristen cannot be in the same room as her because she's also testifying. So she gives her a pep talk and a bottle of water to ease her nerves. And then she said, remember, just be honest, you got this, right? At some point, Brady sees Belle, and Belle said, don't worry about it. We're going to go easy on her. So he said he's not worried about her. He's just worried about EJ. She said, I don't think EJ is going to be hard on her. But if he chooses to do that, me and the judge will shut that down. So he is definitely, feeling a lot more at ease about that. So Sophia is on the phone with Melinda because Melinda is all the way in Chicago with the P.O. box address. And she's telling her that she got the gift that Tate and his family sent over, and she got the letter as well. So Sophia is just uneasy because it's not gonna stop there. Like, even if Belinda replies back with no, he can't see the baby or the parents, he's still not gonna take that for an answer, right? So she's just worried about how it's gonna go down. So her mom comes up, and her mom sees her on the phone. So she said, who were you on the phone with? So she said, excuse me. So she said, I was on the phone talking to Ari about how Tate is not letting this thing go and all of that. So she said, I don't think I believe it. So she said, why wouldn't I not be talking to Ari? So she said, because you've just been acting weirdly since you became pregnant. I don't think we're close anymore. You have been hiding a lot of things from me. So she said, I hope that we can get closer, like how we used to be. And she said, I hope that too, but I'm not a little girl, and you have to give me that space, that boundary, right? but I am more than open to have a relationship with you. So her mom becomes overbearing in this scene, and she's saying, how she needs to speak to a therapist or Dr. Kyriakis, somebody else, her pastor, because maybe she might be suffering from postpartum depression. She's been very irritable, agitated lately. So she said, look, I am fine. I'm grown enough to know that I'm not suffering through nothing. I don't have a fever, all of that. So her mom is just really being ridiculously overbearing. So she said, look, like, I got it under control. You don't have to worry, right? So earlier before the trial started, Belle comes out on her way to the courthouse, and she's just dreading it because she has to face EJ yet again. And Marlena has her I guess psychotherapy session with him. So he knocks at the door, and of course she has to deal with it. So Marlena said, I can answer. So she said, no, I have to deal with him anyways. So anyways, she said, hello, EJ. And EJ wanted to say a few more words to her, but she said, bye, EJ, quicker than I can blink. And I say, well, wow, she's that over him, right? So anyways, he comes in, and he's he has the audacity to think that she would be over everything that happened a day before, not even full 24 hours. And he is thinking that she will probably have time to cool off and forgive him. And Marlena said, excuse me, like, after the way how you treated her in court, like, are you serious? I'm enthralled that she is done with you for good. And he said, tell me how you really feel, Marlena. So she said, look, I'm only doing this for Johnny, and Johnny only for him to be free, right? So he said, I guess we can have that in common, right? So she said, honestly, I want to throw you out of this house, but again, I'm going to try to help you to remember, because this is important for Johnny. So she brings him into the session, and he's back at the scene of the crime, and he's still having a mental block. He's still having a hard time to remember who is behind it. So she said, try a little harder. And I think it was really funny when he said, I can't bloody remember. She said, well, you gotta bloody remember for your son. So anyways, he remembers the detail, and he's saying that something about a her. So now they're thinking it's possibly a woman that's behind the shooting. So EJ narrows it down to possibly four women: Gabby, Ava, Kristen, and Chanel, who were at the house on the night of the shooting. So honestly, I don't think it's any of them. I think it's definitely a little racial, because a lot of people are commenting and thinking it's racial, right? So Johnny is at the courthouse early, and he's just rehashing everything that Belle questioned him about, and bringing up everything with what his dad did to his mom and all of that. So Belle comes in, and Belle didn't expect him to be here, so she wanted to go out, but he said, you know what, let's have a few minutes of chat. And she didn't think it was a good idea to be seen with him, but he said, I just want to tell you I'm sorry about how yesterday at the trial went, and I'm sorry that my dad did that to exposed you guys' relationship, and I was also involved in it. So she said, look, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at how your dad handled the situation, and I'm mad at myself because I know who I was dealing with when I got into this relationship. But at the same time, I chose to look past it. But it's just who he is. And Johnny said, look, can you forgive him? Can you move past it? So she said, honestly, it is who he is, and I am, I'm done with it. I'm done trying to, make this work, right? So back to Sophie and Mrs. Choi. Harvey comes over with the baby, and of course Sophia's face changes instantly, because she's like, oh my gosh, what's happening now? So Mrs. Choi recognized the baby, because again, she did see him at the courthouse when she was on jury duty, when she was worried about Sophia. And her bonding with the baby eased her mind, and Leah was there. So she said, do you know the custodian parent, or the I guess foster parent? So he said, yeah, the foster parent is my boyfriend, and I'm also the foster parent. He actually has 3 foster dads. So Sophia's mom is like, huh, what's going on here? So she said, really progressive, huh? So he said, nothing's wrong with a child surrounded by a lot of love. So Sophia's face is just, agitated. She really doesn't want this to go any further. She's like, how did you even know this baby, mom? And then at some point her mom sees the baby and she says he has a striking resemblance to one of Sophia's brothers when he was a newborn, right? So she's like, mom, can we go sort of breakfast at this point, right? She's trying to push her mom to go get breakfast and all of that. So she said, okay, cool, whatever, right? So she did also at some point ask Sophia, like, how did she know Harry? Because it's the first time she's meeting this guy and all of that. They didn't get into much details about how Harvey found the baby. And I'm hoping that her mom can put two and two together because a lot of things are not adding up. So back to the courthouse, Rachel is nervous as heck, and she sits down there. Before that, the judge also mentioned about yesterday's um, courthouse session, and she says to the jury that, look, your phones will be confiscated during the trial, and please note that none of what happened yesterday about the relationship between the two attorneys should be gossiped about or put on social media. Certain things will be confiscated. Family conversations or friend conversations on the phone will be supervised and all of that. So, of course, Leo wanted to make an objection, but then he sat down. So, anyway, she continued. And Rachel comes on the stand, and Belle questions her and said, look, what happened on the night of your uncle's shooting. So she said that she went downstairs. She was sleeping most of the time, and then she went downstairs briefly and she saw Johnny pointing the gun at her uncle. So she said, what happened after that? So she said she went back upstairs, run upstairs, and she, of course, heard a gunshot after that. So Belle asked her, like, does she know the time period between the time the gunshot was heard and when she went upstairs? So she said she can't remember. So Belle said, okay, no further questions. So EJ turned it around and said, well, when he was questioning her, and he's saying that did you see Johnny point the gun at me? So she said yes. So he asked, like, did you actually see him shoot me? So she said no. So he asked the question that Belle asked, but in a different way, where he doesn't want her to guess the minutes, but he wants her to, pinpoint A and B, like the time she ran up the stairs and also the time the gunshot was heard, right? So he is saying, like, Rachel, could it be possible that somebody could come in between that time and do the deed? So she said, I guess so. So EJ said, no, I need a yes or no. So she said, yes. So he turns to the jury and he says, no further questions, right? Thank you, Rachel, right? So EJ turned it around today, definitely star lawyer today, and yeah, we're getting more into this trial and seeing where it really gonna end up. So that was it today, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys tomorrow.